let you bail out as soon as you can. Good evening. I'll call to order this concurrent meeting of School Administrative Unit Number 12 School Board in Londonderry School District today, Tuesday, December the 9th. If you'd all please rise, and I'll ask Representative Packard to lead us in the pledge, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Good evening and welcome to all our guests. And while we get started, why don't I ask Representative Al Baldessaro's got a presentation to make. So Representative Head, if you join us, we'll be all set.
Mr. Chairman. For everyone here, I don't know if you're aware, I sit on the Veterans Affairs Committee, but here local in town I'm the Junior Vice Commander for our American Legion Post.
Oh, you got the mic? We weren't sure you were on the microphone.
Yeah, I got the mic. And I'm on the Mormont Resource Team. And there's been 2 schools. I mean, first of all, we shipped probably about 3,500 Christmas stockings. It was unbelievable, and that's for our veterans throughout the state. With Mormont Resource Team, we've probably sent over 16,000 packages overseas to troops. And we wouldn't have been successful if it wasn't for 2 of the schools here in Londonderry. And what I did was, and Representative Jim had, and I had flags, we had flags flown. You want to hold that? And on that side there. And what it is, this is flown at the State House and it says here, this flag was flown over the New Hampshire State House in honor of the South Londonderry School for your support of our veterans on November 17th in the year of our Lord 2008. Okay, and I'd like to, is Ms. Boyd, I would like to present you with this and thank you on behalf of the veterans. Put that on, I had our children in the box and put that together. Oh, you want to take a picture?
Photo ops. Al? Want to put that on?
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
Carol's not here, I take it. She's at a school. Is Nate Greenberg here?
No. Carol's at a holiday concert.
Okay.
No, it's a
Yeah,
Christmas.
come on this. And this here is on behalf of, you know, on behalf of the Carol Mack on the Matthew Thornton School, and we definitely want to thank you on their support.
Absolutely.
And you can accept that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
You're sure welcome.
Thank you very much, Al, and certainly thanks to the legislature for recognizing the great things that our kids do in every one of our schools. Thanks so very much. And with that, we can have a discussion about school funding now. Doesn't that sound exciting? Actually, you know, it's... I guess that was enough of a discussion then. Al promises our check is in the mail.
He wasn't on mic.
So great, like everything else, it's postage due.
Oh, darn, not
Perfect.
signed.
I guess to start it off, can somebody give us an update on where we are or where we're not? So I'll leave it to you guys to. Senator-elect Carson, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're still in the same place. The House and the Senate is currently organizing, and the law that's currently on the books and that's due to take effect in 2009 is still the law. I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact, but the community of Hudson is currently suing the state over the kindergarten issue. So that is something that I think everyone should be aware of, because that is going to affect the definition of an adequate education. So you might see the legislature have to go back and redo that once the court has made a decision, or additional legislation will come out. And as far as education funding, we all know that the plan that was passed is currently $100 million more than we have, and there was no legislation that was passed to address that concern. Supposedly, you'll see legislation come forward. There have been bills filed, including one that I've seen, I haven't seen the language, just the title, that calls for an income tax to be implicated to pay for education in New Hampshire. So you're going to see a lot of different ideas come forward. Those, again, the language will not be available until probably the beginning of January, because they're in the process now of getting people to sign off on bills. And if someone checks a little box that says confidential, you won't be able to see the language. But that's where we stand right now, gentlemen. There's been no change. It is, again, a great concern, and it should be a concern for school boards across the state and anyone that has anything to do with our schools, and that includes parents, students, administrators, that this is going to be a big issue. We know that we have a huge budget deficit with our general fund. In fact, the National Conference of State Legislators just put out a new report that shows New Hampshire as being the first state in the nation where 15%, our debt is higher than 15% of our general fund revenue. So that is very, very, very troubling. And we know that the governor has already started making some cuts through the fiscal committee, but I'm afraid that they're not going to be enough. What really should have happened was a year ago when we started talking about a budget deficit. They should have actually opened the budget and gone through once again. But unfortunately, what you're seeing now is a lot of back of the budget cutting. And one of the areas that they are cutting is education. The catastrophic aid fund has been cut, as the building aid fund has been cut. So I am keeping an eye on that. There wasn't a cut to education in the last fiscal meeting that took place 2 weeks ago. But it is something that I am keeping an eye on, and I will update you if that happens again, so you will know, at least at the DOE level, what's being cut and how that could potentially impact Londonderry and any projects that you might have in mind for the upcoming year. Well, there's a possibility, it's been floated, and there's been no definite decisions, that we might have a special session on December 17th to actually open up the budget, and that will have to do, I believe, primarily with personnel, state employees, and the contract. No, it's not going to? Okay.
As of right now.
As of right now, no. So they are still continuing to look at places that are going to be cut. And that's pretty much what I know for right now.
Thanks, Sharon. Any questions for, yep, John? And Steve?
Sure. First off, congratulations. Great to see that. Those of you who may not know, Representative Packard was elected minority leader of the House, and that's a really good thing for Londonderry. Sharon, congratulations. Good to see you elected senator. That's another really good thing for Londonderry. That being said, as long as I've been following it, we've been floating around a definition of adequacy that no matter how we do the math, it seems to come up to be about $3,500. Recognizing the budget pressures and taking out of the equation for the moment the question of where the state gets the money to pay for it, does anybody really believe that's what an adequate education costs in New Hampshire?
Well, John, I'll tell you, quite frankly, I was surprised that that number was the number that was being floated. I thought it was going to be much higher. But I think what happened in this process, and it's kind of interesting that people started looking at, okay, this is how much money we have, and now we've got to try to fit the formula, but now we want to add some other things in there too. So rather than see that number increase, you actually saw that number decrease. One of the interesting aspects of the education funding formula was the step process, that if a school reaches a certain percentage of its population that gets free or reduced lunch from the federal government, that the greater percentage of their students are going to get more money. And it started at 12%. So if you had a school that was at 11% of their population receive free or reduced lunch, you weren't going to get any extra money. But at 12%, and then it reached increments as it went higher. I believe, if I remember correctly, being told by the budget director, that at the end of the year last year, there were 29 schools that were at 48% or higher of their population. At the start of the school year in September, they now had 35. So it's a point where the numbers are moving around from place to place. And I don't think anybody who's really in control of this process has any idea what the real numbers are. But I thought those numbers should have been higher.
How can it not be true that an adequate education costs roughly what the median per pupil cost in the state of New Hampshire is?
I can't answer that, John. I
Well,
wasn't.
I
wasn't
know,
part of
I know.
that
You didn't write the
committee.
formula
I wasn't
and-
there that for the writing of the formula.
Well,
But
wouldn't-
I was surprised.
Wouldn't
I was
that,
surprised.
wouldn't that, Sherm, Al, Jim, wouldn't, Betsy, hi, I thought I saw you come in. Wouldn't that seem like the determination that the average common citizen would come up with, that if it costs on average $8,000 for a town to educate its students, then that's probably what an adequate education costs?
I would agree. And what they do is they look at they try to get an average because it's different. The number is different in each district.
Yeah.
And they try to come up with an average. But to actually reduce the grant in order to get extra money to target aid. And what the problem is targeting aid. No one can really figure out how to target aid because every time someone thinks they figured out a way to do it, it's unconstitutional. And that's what we keep coming up against over and over and over again. I have argued, look, we need to fund each child equally because a child in a school in Whitefield, Laconia, Portsmouth, Londonderry, Keene, they're all worth the same amount. And we know that there are some children that have other needs, but let's address all kids first. And then if we have to allocate money, do it in a separate bill, but at least get a funding formula in place where everyone is treated the same, get it in place. And then you can work on finding a way to get additional money to districts that need the help.
Okay.
But it's common sense. And John, you were there, and you know
I know.
sometimes it doesn't operate
I know,
common
and,
sense.
and I sort of anticipated you would be in agreement with that, because as you said, it is common sense. Just trying to make a point.
Well, I'll be arguing. It's what I do. So just be in there fighting. I mean, we've got to do the right thing here, and unfortunately, that wasn't done the last time.
Okay, see you for Old Home Day.
Yeah, we'll see you Old Home Day.
Thanks, Sharon. Steve?
It's interesting, your quote, I don't know if it was intentional, but your quote exactly matches Senator Clegg's quote to NH Cafe, and that is that every child is worth as much money in any other community.
Oh, no, Bob and I, we talked extensively about this. He was someone that was very interested in education funding and worked hard. And we were really in agreement that you really have to fund every child equally. That was the Claremont decision. No matter where they live.
And then once you do, then it's a good position to put yourself in to provide extra to others.
Yes, exactly.
Because everyone's eyes glaze over on school funding, unfortunately, it's only $1 billion or so a year, so.
Yeah.
Let me bring it back to a local level. I know that when we have these conversations, people get a little concerned about their tax bill. You know, what does it mean to me? The legislature will be going in this year, and they will be they will be hitting the third point of the court's mandate, which is to fund an adequate education. When they do, and that is all done, we'll be going to the polls in March. As we know, the general court won't be done until the end of June. And do you see any change in what they decide to give Londonderry in August? It's typically when it comes in August and September. Do you see any changes in those months? Because unfortunately, the voters will go to the polls in March with our best guess at how much we'll be getting. And I'm just wondering if you see any catastrophic change in how much we will get, either up or down.
Up or, well, I
There
don't
was
think
a
you
time,
can
by
count
the way,
on
when I-
going up.
Well,
I
but,
think-
well, but by the way,
Right.
if people lived here back in the Claremont decision, 1 year you got your tax bill and all of a sudden it was tiny.
Right.
Like, where did it go? And that's what happened, is the court decision ended up, we didn't have to pay as big a tax. And the residents of Londonderry, I'm sure they're sitting there in these economic times saying, what does this mean to me for my tax bills?
Well, I think a lot of it is going to depend on the governor and the direction that the governor wants to go. I don't know if he's going to try and push a constitutional amendment again. But again, that's not going to help the community in March when we're going to the polls. I don't see them resolving this issue. I think this is just going to be an ongoing discussion. My hope is that they're going to leave the funding as it is and not going to play around with it until they come up with a solution. But again, what you're really dealing with is the fact that we just don't have the money to pay for the plan that they have in effect. And they're going to come forward with a plan. I know the House is coming forward with a plan. I haven't seen the details of that plan, and I hope Sherm can.
I will stay on top of it, but I haven't seen the details
Okay.
yet either.
But the one thing that I would say that you really need to be on top of, and that we will be on top of also, is a number of mandates that are going to be coming down, being shifted from the state to the
Are those
locals.
funded mandates?
Those are unfunded mandates. Oh, yes, they are. So we will be arguing against those and in support of our community. So, but you might see some of that happening, so you have to be careful.
But I think the other thing, going back to the, your question of, is it gonna go up or is it gonna go down? I think we have to be realistic. We're sitting in a budget hole, we really don't know how much. We're looking at anywhere from 150 to 250, $300 million that we've gotta find. And, I know, Ben, you sat on Ways and Means, the 2 years you were up there, and one of the people we have in the state that has been pretty much right on the money right along, Norm Major, the former chairman. Usually, we get anywhere from a 3 to 5% increase, normally. Norm is projecting this coming session that it's gonna be absolutely flat. So not only are we gonna see, we have to find anywhere from $200 to $250 million to balance the current budget we've got, we're not gonna see that, increase of 3 to 5%. With the current economic situation we got. So, our budget situation up there is extremely, extremely critical. And if you're gonna ask me where we're gonna find the money, I can honestly tell you, I don't think there's a soul up there that knows at this point. It's gonna be a tough 2 years to try and get a balanced budget.
That's why I said I hope that we stay level funded, that we don't go down. But all of us will be up there fighting for our constituents to make sure that we are well represented when we get to the table. But it is really a dire circumstance. We tried to get the message out during the last election, but unfortunately, a lot of that information was glossed over. And now it's really hitting home. And we're going to see more and more and more of it. And it's not pretty. And it's not going to be pretty.
And I will tell you that there's a lot of other states that are in a lot worse shape than we are. And every state in this country, I think except one or two, is in serious, serious fiscal problems.
Ben?
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned Norm, because I was going to ask a Norm-type question. With regard to revenues, are the revenues that are tied to the Education Trust Fund holding up better than the general obligation revenues, or do you see are those revenues declining at the same rate or not growing?
The biggest hit we're taking, Ben, is obviously in the business profits tax and the business enterprise tax. That's where we're taking the biggest hit right now. I mean, some of the other ones aren't too bad. I don't have the sheet in front of me. I mean,
Real estate transfers, probably.
that's
right
way
Let's-
down.
yeah,
The real
that's
estate
way
transfer is way
So,
down also.
do you think the legislature will try to balance the budget by rating the Education Trust Fund?
They already did. They did it last time.
I mean, that would directly, if I
would-
understand this, that would directly.
I would hope not, and it would be something we would fight against.
Right.
But
Because that would wouldn't that directly affect the state adequacy grant if they decide to
Oh, yeah.
rebalance it
Got a building
by
aid.
moving those revenues. That's the communications tax and it was the business enterprise tax that were tied to the, to the trust fund.
Lottery funds,
Yeah.
everything, they're all
Yeah.
down.
I mean, everything's down. I mean, like I said, some of them are drastic, I mean, more than the others, obviously, but, you know, even our sin taxes are down a little bit.
Yeah, well, you don't have to make profits to pay the enterprise tax. So that's a good one to be tied to trust fund, but, all right, well, good luck, thanks.
You want me to go first?
Oh, Peter, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not gonna ask for money. Everyone else has spoken for me on that. My concern is timing of communication. All the towns and school districts that are this form of government are going through their budgets, give or take, you know, a week or two, but this time frame. So it's important, whatever the number is, up, down, flat, or whatever, that we know and these people know and the public knows what we're gonna get for CAD aid, building aid, and state aid. Because we're up here giving them as much information as we know, and then there are 5 of them, and then on to the, you know, the general public, are trying to make budget decisions, either cuts or add programs, and base a lot of it on revenues, and of course, a lot of our revenues come from the state. It's real difficult when we don't know what it is, because we could be making decisions on CAD aid being 100,000, and yeah, we may get 200,000, we're all happy, but during the budget process, we might have wanted to add something in that we really wanted but didn't have the money to, and now it's too late because you can't, once the budget's passed, you can't do anything. What's more difficult than that, though, is after the budget's been set, and more, after the tax rate's been set, that you get a notice from the state saying, we need to reduce, in this case, we just got a letter a week ago, we got to reduce building aid, I think it was $26,000. To some communities, and, you know, 26,000 a whole lot, to some it's a lot. But for $26,000, that, if everything comes in even, you know, all our revenues come in even and we expend the budget, that means we got to find $26,000 in the budget in order to come up with a, you know, not to go in the red. Those kind of decisions make it difficult when after everything's done, you get the letter like that. If it came before tax rate time, at least the board would have a decision to either raise the tax rate, whatever 26,000 is, or, you know, or let it go. But after it's set, you don't have the decision, it's already set for you. What I was wondering, I know this is not the year to ask for that. If you remember on the town side, I still have some memories in the town side, the highway block grant has some legislation or some teeth to it as to the amount of money the state needs to turn over to the town for highway block grant money. There's a formula that I think the treasurer is required to form.
It's 12%, my memory
Right.
serves me.
It would be nice if somewhere on the line, the CAD aid and building aid have some kind of same type of legislation as the highway block grant. Because if you remember, especially in the building aid, long-term decisions, building a building, long-term renovation and bonds, are tied to the fact that the town or the school district anticipates getting X dollars of money from the building aid. And most times you do it, but it'd be nice if there was some legislation that would, same idea as the highway block grant. The other thing is, and this, I don't understand this one at all, and especially, I'll use the example of the building aid. A couple of times we get letters, you know, that building aid, we will get, in this case, $26,000 less this fiscal year. And then during the legislative process, the legislature will put back the money that we lost in next year's fiscal year. And for the life of me, I can't understand, in the state, this is state law, won't allow us to, I'll use the term, book that revenue this year, so we don't have to dip into the budget for $26,000 a program, knowing we're gonna get the money the following year. In other words, create it as a receivable, and then the check comes in, let's say, July 10th. By state law or whatever, they won't allow us to do that. So when if we're all done with our budget now, we gotta find $26,000 in this year's budget. Next year, we're gonna get $26,000 of revenue that we didn't anticipate. It's general accepted accounting principles, and I don't know why when we're hand-tied not to follow that. I mean, those are the ideas I had as to communication and timing of information for us.
Ben?
I just want to add one other thing, and you've probably been following the budget process, so you have some sense of the actions that we've taken this year, but I know it's maybe a message that you can take back to the legislature. It's a combined effort between the legislature and local school boards. I mean, we run about a $60 million budget, and we're looking at a budget now that is several percent less, well, actually almost 5 or 6% less than the default budget. We've made a concerted effort in order to trim up the program as tight as possible. I mean, we are looking at staff reductions of about 18, in part because of declining enrollments and reallocation of those resources. But we're cognizant of budget problems. You know, we're always asking for revenue, but we're also trying to deliver a certain quality program in the district. And I think we take pride in the fact that we believe we've had great results and are very happy with the results that we've had. And we're not trying to cut programming at this point to balance the budget. We're just trying to trim it up and run it as tight as possible to continue to offer those kinds of opportunities that we believe our community is looking to have offered to their students. So I'm just saying that because it's not all about just send us more revenue. We're doing, I believe, our part as well in terms of tightening it up and still trying to run a quality program with the money that we have available.
Well, as a citizen of Londonderry, I was very pleased to see our school board being very proactive and realizing that there's going to be some problems with the budget, and looking at the community and knowing that there's issues within the community concerning the economy, that you're being very proactive and you're looking at ways to reduce taxes for the citizens, and I'm glad to see that happening. I'm just hopeful that we don't have to cut too deep and that we're able to keep the programs that are very important for our students. So you'll find that we will be up there working and trying to protect what we have here.
And I only mention that because there was, because each of us are at different places in our lives and you have different points of contact. And so when you move away from the school system and your children and then you have grandchildren and you're just not involved in it as much, then you kind of lose touch with what's happening on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things I took away from the legislature, of course, is that, contract manufacturing is not in our future in New Hampshire. Our future is based upon education and the kind of benefits that we can derive from excellent education, whether you come out of from high school or from the universities. And so that's where you put your money in order to try to keep people in the state and to continue to grow the state and maintain and improve upon the standard of living that we've established. And it's a cooperative effort between the legislature and us. And the reality is education will get funded at this level because that's all the money we have. And so we just redivide the money. And there's not another revenue source out there that's going to raise it up to $8,000 unless we take local property taxes and run them up to the state and then get them back. So those are the realities, and we recognize that, and we work together to try to make the best we can.
Thanks, Ben. Nate?
Yeah, Ben had touched on a number of points I was going to make. First, I want to thank everybody for coming this evening. It's greatly appreciated. Just a couple of additional thoughts. Ben had mentioned some of the recommendations that have been made to the board as we go through the budget process, and part of that is what I'd like you to take back as a mindset. We've proposed at this point a reduction of $1.2 million in staffing. It's a combination between certified and classified positions. It's about 30 people. In addition to that, over the years, we've put in place a significant number of cost avoidance measures, everything from energy to in-house special education programs. We total that up, that's way over $4 million for next year alone. So between the cost avoidance and the recommended reductions, we're over $6 million in either cost avoidance or out-and-out savings or reductions.
10%?
Yeah, so we're looking at this very seriously. And so, as Ben had mentioned, I think it's critically important that the state look at this as being a joint venture, because what the state doesn't fund, obviously, we've got to pick up. And I did take the liberty, and I know a number of you have seen it before, and it's posted on our website, our accent on achievement. Okay, last year, 90% of our senior class went on to either 2 or 4-year schools. We had a dropout rate of 1%. We've developed articulation agreements, thanks to Mike Dolphin, who's sitting in the back, with 22 colleges now, Mike. And last year, the scholarships that the kids got through these articulation agreements over a 4-year period totals almost $1 million. So when we look at cost avoidance and cost savings, we're looking at it in a multitude of ways. And if the funding from the state continues to dwindle away, let me put it that way, then it then begins to put some of those programs and services in jeopardy. And we begin to slide back through no fault of anybody that's working in the district or work the school board. You just begin to slide back, and you're not able to provide that same level of support or services to students. So as we go through, I think it's important you just keep that in mind. And the second thing, Sharon, you mentioned it earlier, if our delegation can keep a very sharp eye on any future mandates and actually demand that there be a fiscal note attached to anything, because not only are there direct costs, but there are also indirect costs. And I'll give you an example. We're going to talk about special education tonight. That's one of the topics. But in the new rules, in a sense, there's one of the rules, in effect, will shorten to a degree the number of days that we would have to develop an evaluation and report back. All right? It's significant enough that over a period of time, that might force us to either to hire more staff, just because we can't do the turnaround in enough time to then be in compliance with state rules. So when people look at that, I don't think they take a look at both the direct and indirect costs. And those costs, in a sense, get hidden, and then we get asked, when we come in and we say, well, I need another evaluator or another 50% of this person or that person, the board says, well, your enrollment's going down in special ed, and why are you asking for more help? In part, that's in response to rules that have been promulgated by the state, which are above and beyond what the federal requirements are. So when you've got those kinds of mandates and any additional mandates that come down that have an impact, and then the state doesn't pay for it, and then simultaneously the state is cutting back on whether it's CAD aid, which really is a double hit for us, because as you know, CAD aid is paid a year in arrears. So we've already paid that money, and then you anticipate you're getting this revenue the following year, and they curtail that amount of revenue. So you're getting hit twice, in effect, by not funding CAD aid to 100%. So it's those kinds of things. And I guess what we're offering too, because we don't expect everybody to do it alone, is as these bills come forth, if there's any way that we can provide input or say, if you look at it this way, this has the potential of having either a direct cost or an indirect cost, and our best guess is, at least for our school district. Because we've done that a number of times, and if I go back, I think it was 2-3 years ago, one of the things that we did was a quick and dirty analysis of IDEA funding, and we calculated that we are shorted by the federal government to the tune of $1 million a year to comply with IDEA regulations. So if we're shorted $1 million, and then the state shorts us on the catastrophic aid, even while we've put in place a multitude of in-district special education programs that, we feel are better for the kids, but also more cost-effective, and then we get penalized because of the curtailment in catastrophic aid, we're taking almost a double or a triple hit. So it's a matter of trying to work in concert to address some of those issues and work with it. So with that, I just want to say thank you, really, for the work you guys have done over the years. It's appreciated.
Well, Nate, I think that's a great solution. You and I have talked over the years about a number of issues, and I'm really, it's unfortunate to hear you say about the unfunded mandates concerning special ed. As you know, we had 6 major bills concerning special ed come through the House and the Senate last year, over the past 2 years, excuse me, and a number of us argued that there were a number of unfunded mandates, and we were able to take some out, but we were assured by the Commissioner of Education that there were no unfunded mandates in the bills. So I'd be interested to hear from you, other ones that you've come across, because these are issues that we can argue and we can bring up.
Absolutely.
So please let me know when you're available.
And it's not, and what I don't want people to walk away with, heaven forbid, that we don't believe that we should provide an extremely high level of service to all our students, whether they're special ed kids or regular ed kids. In fact, the philosophy in our district is that they're just kids, as opposed to anybody being labeled in delivery of service. But when the state does take action that either has a direct or indirect cost, then it poses an issue. And some of them are not, what's a good way I can put this? Don't necessarily enhance the delivery of services to children, I guess is a nice way of putting it, and creates more bureaucratic paperwork.
No,
So,
I
whatever it's
agree
worth.
with you, but the state does have the obligation, if it passes a law, it's got to fund it.
Right.
And that's simple.
Yeah. The problem, though, I think, as you well know, too, that if it's a rule, it doesn't necessarily require funding, and that's a way around it. So,
That and the jails aren't big enough.
yeah.
Al and then Ron.
Yeah, Nate, I'd be interested too, also, can you email us, maybe info us on what 28A issues there are in the town, or what so we at least have an idea, and that way there, we're ahead of the game, and we can speak up. And also, as I took the realm there as a team effort, we're gonna continue to keep you informed, because I've been sending you the calendars, every week, so, and that's why it's very important there for you to come up there, and I know I see Nate all the time, and I see, Dave Karen on issues, to come up and speak at the committee before they even get to the floor, and maybe let us know so we can prepare amendments also ahead of time, to, with your expertise.
Thanks, Al. Ron?
Yeah, just one other piece of paper I'm going to give you is the Peter's section here on the proposed FY10 budget for the school district. And Al, in here, there's that table of equalized evaluations of local towns in here. And one of the things that it shows, and we had this discussion, that Londonderry is not one of the richer towns around property per student. And that's a big issue when you start talking about where the money goes and how you divide it up. And one of the interesting things is Manchester has more dollars per student than Londonderry does. So Peter will email you a copy of this, but there'll be one hard copy of it all to you, and it'll show you some of the district costs around here.
Thank you. That'll be very helpful to us.
Thank you very, very much.
Appreciate you guys coming.
We
for
certainly
coming out.
appreciate your time.
And congratulations to all of you
Yeah.
again.
Thank you.
As everybody said, this is a partnership for us. In order for us to ensure that our children succeed, we need you folks there to make the legislature succeed.
And,
And we appreciate the relationship that we've had with you, certainly for my 4 years here. We greatly appreciate that.
And please, don't hesitate. If you have any questions, any concerns, any comments, please don't hesitate to contact us. Email us, pick up the phone and call. It's very important that we hear from you so we can take the concerns up to Concord with us. And Mr. Cura, I'd be very interested in seeing what you'd like to have happen from the budget point of view, because I agree with you. I think there has to be a better way to do this.
And I think Mr. Young had
Well,
one.
just a special thanks to Jim Head for commuting from Auburn tonight. I think a lot of our Londonderry citizens, come to think that it's Londonderry reps, but the district for the representatives is Auburn and Londonderry. So we appreciate you coming over.
Yeah, we do, Jim. Thanks. Thanks
Thank
to
you.
all of you.
Good luck.
Have a good evening.
Oh,
Yeah, good luck. Not an envious position. Susie?
Thank you. I thank the board for giving me a moment to tell you. I would like to invite you all to our first annual, we're calling it Kick Off Your New Year's Resolution Wellness Fair. It'll be presented by the HR department and the Life program. It'll be on January the 7th from 2:30 to 6 at the high school cafeteria and the main lobby. The Life program stands for Lower Insurance Fees Effectively. And we have partnered with the Red Cross, and they're going to have a blood drive going along at the same time. We have over 25 booths, and people are still now calling us and saying, we want to be a part of it, we want to be a part of it. So far, we have the Elliott Hospital, Parkland Hospital, Coca-Cola, Stonyfield, Breathe New Hampshire, Heart Rhythm Meditation, Saucony Footwear, Hannaford's, Integrity, Bare Necessities, Bareka Massage, Jazzercise, Curves, Northeast Center for Holistic Medicine, School Care, and Weight Watchers. This will be open to the public. We would like everyone to attend in the community. Embroidery Creations is donating 100 T-shirts to go to the first 100 blood donors. Stonyfield is donating yogurt. Dunkin' Donuts is donating coffee. The HR department, which is Cindy McMahon, the benefits coordinator, Melissa Thompson, recruitment specialist. We are very committed to the promoting a healthy lifestyle and getting our staff healthy to hopefully lower our insurance costs, because our health insurance costs are based on our usage. So if we have a very healthy and happy staff, we will save money. So if you all
is a
could,
good thing.
would join us, it should be a lot of fun.
Thanks, Susie.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Any
Sue?
questions?
Susie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you there. I can line up for the donuts, right?
Notice I didn't say donuts.
I did notice that. I got a little nervous when I said the donut shop. All right.
George?
I'm sorry, yep.
Just
Nate.
have an announcement. Just let everybody know that Dollar Days for Warm Homes will start the week of December 15th, which is next Monday, and students are encouraged to bring in $1 as a donation towards Warm Homes. This is a very worthwhile endeavor, and we did it last year, and it was very successful. And the Dollar Days will run through January 9th, which is the Friday after vacation. So
Great.
just a reminder to the community that that's occurring.
Thanks, Nate. Maybe you can remind us again Thursday night. Maybe we'll have a different audience.
Sure.
Thanks. If you just keep that going between now and the 9th.
Motion to accept the consent agenda?
I have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Before we take a vote, I just want to, there is an additional retirement that's not on the agenda. Inez Anderson is a special ed assistant over at North School. I believe she's been here about 13 years, so we certainly wish her the best in her retirement. And we thank her for her service to our students. Following meetings, December the 11th, 7 p.m. is a budget workshop here. December 16th is an open date, and December 18th are an open date. We'll see how things go Thursday night, and we'll know whether we need those meetings or not. With that, all those in favor of the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second already.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, just say aye. Ben seconded it.
I second it.
Stay with the program here.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, you got it this time, sorry.
5-0. I'm sorry, yes.
Do you want to mention about the band going to DC?
Oh, Andy's coming.
Andy's gonna come in a little bit. So, yes. We do, but
Sorry,
we're gonna
Ben.
hold that little secret for the moment.
Who's going to where?
Sorry, Ben.
No, that's fine.
What's happening and where?
We're gonna blame Peter.
Nothing
Boy,
ever.
that's it.
Okay.
No more.
Moving right along to committee reports. CJ,
I have presents.
we love presents,
There you
CJ.
go.
Not as much as we love cookies, but presents are just as
Oh,
up,
boy.
right up there.
Well,
Good night.
I'm not sure if you can eat it, but you can sure try.
Wrap a fish in it.
This is the Lancer Spirit, the school newspaper. It was circulated around the school on the day before Thanksgiving break on that Tuesday. This issue features articles addressing all aspects of student life, from the recent election to popular culture. An article on the school board is also featured with a photo taken at the last meeting. The board members are referred to as wizards. It's on page 2.
Nothing up the slide.
That's pretty frightening, actually.
Moving on, the Student Council ran a can drive last week to stock up on non-perishables for the local food pantry.
Wait a minute, what is this, the seemingly boring meeting? You flip past on the TV is
Written by reporter Matt Saw.
I know.
Now, stop picking on Matthew, he's a good kid.
I know him.
Matt
Okay.
Sar.
I'm sorry, my apologies.
He's a good kid, leave him be.
Please continue lest we bore you.
Come on, CJ, get control here, will you please?
The can drive awarded the class who brought the most cans with a well-earned breakfast. Just about 6,000 cans were donated in 1 week. Last year, about 9,000 were donated, but that was within 2 weeks. So I think it's safe to say that we were in the giving spirit this year. Different organizations around the school, including the Student Council, the Girls Track Team, National Honor Society, the Drama Club, and the classes of 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012 adopted 12 families between each other here in Londonderry to help out the effort with the holidays. The Student Council was able to support 2 families, and I'm pretty sure most of the other groups took on 2 families as well. So they'll all be receiving gifts this Christmas. On Friday, National Honor Society held a senior supper for the local senior citizens. The dinner featured live music, sporadic caroling, and a game of bingo with fabulous prizes. Both the seniors and the students came together in the holiday cheer. Last Wednesday, New Hampshire BioConnect took a trip to UNH in Durham to attend a state meeting of about 200 students. The 30 members who went on the trip were able to meet with students around 10 other towns who all shared similar interests in a career in biotechnology. Students also got to talk to a panel of 19 professionals from the biotechnology field and learn valuable information about college and job opportunities. I also have the Students and Faculty of the Month for November. The Students of the Month were freshman Zach Capibianco, sophomore Alex Burbine, junior Wes Krupp, and senior Tyler Palmieri. The Teacher of the Month is Mr. Scott Sicard, and the Staff Member of the Month is Dan McLeod.
It's great, CJ, thank you. Thank you. Steve,
This just in.
hot off the press.
The press. The Londonderry Adult Education Program will hold their fall 2008 graduation ceremony on Wednesday, January 28th at 6:30 p.m. in the Media Center. 6 students will be graduating with this class. If I could personally just say that if you haven't attended one of those graduations of the adult ed, it's an amazing experience to see these kids who have struggled and done a lot of these difficult things and made it to that important day. So please come and see that. The rest of the news comes from the middle school. Wendy Worth reports that the Zephyr team honored their 12 Students of the Month for their Winning Ways program. Maddie Doris, Gabby Feig, Chris Moore, Stephanie Hemingway, Jenna Conroy, Ben Stoller, Molly Feldman, Rachel Grady, Lexi Susi, Ashley Lecaros, and Haley Tarbox, who's being recognized for the second time. They also have an Admiral Zephyr program given to a student who goes above and beyond their duty to assist and support their peers. The winners for the month were Victoria Stubbs and Andrew Jacobs. Andy Kalachi reports that the can drive went well at the middle school. The top team were the Cyclone team. They brought in 500 cans. This resulted in Gino Tiella shaving his head, which I support. The first round of lessons on cyberbullying were done in the computer classes with the help of the resource officer, and the French department completed their annual fashion show, that of the students, not the faculty, and paraded around their rooms speaking in French about all their accoutrements. The 6th grade had their successful social on November 21st. About 170 students attended. Mrs. Kashigan at the music department wants us to know that Saturday, December 13th, everyone is invited to their holiday concert. Program starts at 9, and the last chorus goes on at 3:15. A great way to kick off the holiday season. Sue Rowe is the queen of wellness at the middle school. They had the silent auction, and it generated approximately $4,500, which will be used for an upcoming wellness day in the spring at the middle school.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Ben, Ronnie.
All set.
No boring stuff here.
Well, that was easy. Where's my little "that's easy" button? What?
Budget season.
Yeah, that's right. It's budget season. Who's got time for anything else? You're absolutely right. With that, we can move to the curriculum report. So, Mr. Blunt and Ms. Martin, come on down.
Thank you, George. Thank you,
bet.
Board. This evening is the third part of our assessment series. This evening, Judy Martin, and there's a couple of our reading teachers behind us, Gail Moretti and Kelly Sarbaugh, who's also part of the reading team. But this evening, as you know, earlier in the fall, we showcased what we use data at a system level, district-wide level. And then in the last presentation, we demonstrated how data is used at the school level, showing you some of the action plans that the administrative teams at each of the schools and the staff have developed this fall based on the data. This evening takes us down to the student level. And so what we're doing this evening is providing just a snapshot of how we use data in our reading program at the elementary level based on our three-tier intervention model. So this evening, Judy Martin, a South School reading teacher, will showcase how we use this data at an individual student level. So without further ado, Judy.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. If we go to the next slide, this is our three-tier model, and this is what we use through the whole district. I know some of you may be familiar with it, but I thought maybe we could go over it to familiarize other people. The green section is what we call the Tier 1, and that's basically all our children. We feel that all our students at the elementary level receive Tier 1 services. That's the regular curriculum in the classroom with the regular classroom teacher. And then we go down to a group of students that are Tier 2. And those students tend to, for some reason or another, not meet all the benchmarks. They need a little boost in a certain area of reading. So they are pulled out and receive an additional 30 minutes a day of reading support through either a reading teacher or a special education teacher. And then the red zone, those are our intensive intervention students where they need even more intervention than the Tier 2, so they get a third dose, which is why we call it the three-tier. So they get the classroom intervention, then they get a tier from either a reading teacher or a special educator, and then again from another special educator or a reading teacher. So that's our three-tier model. And if we go on to the next part, as a district and as the reading teachers, we got together and we looked at all of the assessment that we give the students throughout the year, and we needed to set up a rubrics to go with our report card to tell parents if a student is meeting the benchmarks or if they're needing some improvement, and how we're going to place the students in a tier. So Tier 1 again is your typical students, and anything on the Iowa assessment, that's a standardized test, bless you, that we give to the students at the end of the year. If they score higher than 35% on that test, then they are considered Tier 1. The DIBELS is a reading fluency test that we give the students 3 times a year to go with the report cards, and if they score in the low risk, they've met benchmarks. Of course, the kneecaps, if they score in the proficient or above. And then with our reading assessment, we have, if they score between 70 and 100% on the Scott Forsman benchmarks. And then, of course, Tier 2 is, you can read there, and then Tier 3 is below 25%. Now, again, Tier 1 students, that's everyone in the regular ed classroom receiving the Scotts-Forsman reading program. And they really are either meeting the benchmark, they are meeting the benchmarks or exceeding the benchmarks, so they really don't need to have any extra services. And this is I know it's small, I apologize, but this is a typical Tier 1 student that we got off the info site that the district has. When teachers assess their students, they input the data onto the info site, so you can see the various scores of this student, and this student is exceeding benchmarks.
The top section is basically the DIBELS results. So PSF is phoneme segmentation fluency. The oral reading fluency is ORF. The lower results you see at the bottom are the the Iowa results are at the bottom, and
the kneecaps are right above
and the
that.
kneecaps are right above it. That's right.
And if you go on to the next screen, that's more Iowa results broken down. And the final screen is the Scott-Forsman, one more. And this is the Scott-Forsman assessment where you can see where we track the students. This student happened to have Scott-Forsman last year, so it's a third grader, but you can see that we have kept all the second grade scores as well as the third grade scores. That's okay.
Thought it was last call?
Yeah.
Boring.
I'm trying.
And then the Tier 2 student, if in any of those areas that I just showed you, the student doesn't happen to meet benchmarks, then we consider them a Tier 2 student. And they would be pulled out for an additional 30 minutes a day with a reading teacher, or in some cases, a special ed teacher. And these are some of the programs we work on. We have the Scott-Forsman Sidewalks, we have Making Connections, Project Read, Read Naturally. And if you turn to the next phase, if you see that's a typical Tier 2 student. What we do is we look at all these scores and we assess where the child might need help. It doesn't mean in order to be a Tier 2 student, you don't have to not meet the benchmarks in every single one of the assessments. You might do okay in DIBELS, but then the Iowa score might be low. So we look at all the different sub-scores, and if the child is weak, say their fluency is fine, they're fine in DIBELS, but their comprehension score on the kneecap or the Iowas or on the Scott-Forsman is low, then we would put those students in a comprehension group that worked on comprehension skills. If the child really needs help on phonics, if you turn to another couple slides, this is the Scott-Forsman. You can see where it's broken down in subtests. So if they need help in vocabulary or phonics, then we would put that child in a group that just works on the phonics skills. Or again, if they need help on fluency, we would work with that child on fluency. And the nice thing about the Tier 2 students is our goal is to get them back into the classroom. So we give them a big dose of intervention, and we can move. We have flexible grouping. So if, they're really not getting it in my group, this group needs something else, I can move them to another Tier 2 group and concentrate on what that child needs. And we're constantly progress monitoring them to make sure that, they are making progress. If we go for 6 to 8 weeks and we find that they're not making any progress, then we need to change our intervention and we try something else. And so that our goal is to get all these children back onto benchmarks in Tier 2. So then we move to Tier 3. And these students, of course, are our students that are, they need more reading instruction than maybe our Tier 2 students. So they're getting an extra tier 3 dose, and a lot of times they've scored below the 25th percentile, and this tends to be our special education population. So they're going to be working with a special education teacher, an LD specialist, and they're going to work in specialized programs like SRA reading mastery, corrective reading, and it depends on basically their disability or their IEP on what programs that those children will need. But they also are like all the other students. They are in a tier 1 in the classroom. The classroom teacher reads with those students every day, works with them, and then they get two more doses of specialized instruction with the special educator. And basically, that's how we analyze our results, our assessment data. Any questions or concerns? And that's a sample of a tier 3 student. We wanted to click through those. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
What do they miss out on when you pull them out for these reading classes?
They won't be missing out. They're getting just a different kind of reading instruction. So when they're being...
2 hour.
Right, we have a 2-hour language arts block. So while the other children are receiving the regular curriculum in reading or language arts, these children are receiving a different curriculum for the tier 3 children. The tier 2 children, they're really missing, it'll be like center time. The classroom teacher will have read with them, given them their direct instruction. Then they'll come to me, and while they're with me, usually the other kids in the group are doing independent seat work or center work, which we modify their work, or they have an opportunity during quiet reading to catch up on. So we do try to work with the classroom teachers so that they aren't missing
I'm just going to,
direct instruction.
I just would like you to define center work and seat work.
Okay, center work could be like word building, where they go to a specific area in the room where they have to take their spelling words and manipulate them and do an activity with them. And then somebody else might be over on the computer working on math facts. And someone else might be in the writing center working on a written language piece, a poem or something. So that kind of, it's all educational activities, and the children float around the room. Whereas seat work might be, okay, we read story, whatever story together today, and now I want you to go back to your seat and answer questions 1 through 5. That kind of thing.
One.
Can you, for the audience, when you say 35%, you don't mean that they're at 35% level on here. What does that equate to when you talk about?
Oh, the Iowa assessment?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 35, that's a standardized
percentile.
score, so it's a national percentile, so that's 35 percentile. So meaning there's a bell curve, you have.
What would that really mean on?
50% is kind of middle.
Right, and where are you with it?
35 would be on the low end, whereas 100 would be at the top.
I'm looking at your chart here,
Yeah,
and it tells me that the children that are at 35% or greater are reading or assessment units at 70 to 100%.
oh, these are 2 different assessments. So if you look at the chart where it says Iowa,
Yep.
and it says greater than 35%, that's the national percentile ranking. So out of all of the U.S., out of all the children that have taken the Iowa test, those children on Tier 1 have to score 35 percentile, at least 35 percentile by our standards to be on Tier 1. But if you look at the reading unit assessment, that's a percentage. And I bet you the special ed people could talk on it better, but it's 70 to 100%, meaning,
Yeah.
like if you're taking a test, 100, you've gotten them all correct. So they're 2 different assessments. That's why we have a rubric for 2 different
Okay.
assessments. Did I confuse you? Sorry.
No, but I think we need to clarify it because I look at, the public just listening to the conversation says 35%, so that means all you have to know is 35% and you're in tier one. That's the misconception I'm trying to displace.
Yes.
When you're thinking, I'm sorry, I'm Kelly Sarbo, I'm a reading specialist at Matthew Thornton. When you're thinking of looking at a percentile rank, you want your kids to score between 25 and 75 to be considered average. 25% is low average, 50% is dead on average, 75% is considered high average, and anything above that is above average. So when we're looking at the Iowa scores, it's not that they only got 35% of the questions right. Of all the questions that they got, they scored at or above 35% of the students that also took the test.
Yes.
When we're talking
Which
about,
does- That is an average range.
right, it is definitely in the average range. Our benchmark in Londonderry is 30%. We want the kids to be scoring on the Iowas at 30%, which nationally, most people are looking at 25%
Of
or
course,
below.
you mean 30% or higher.
Yes, I'm sorry. 30% or higher in order to meet our Londonderry benchmark. If they're scoring below 30%, they don't meet the Londonderry benchmark. But nationally, it's 25%. So we have a higher standard in Londonderry. And that's okay because we want to target the kids that need a little bit more boost and say, we're going to provide you with more instruction in reading. When you're looking at the Scott Forsman, you're looking at, okay, we had 50 questions on the test. Out of those 50 questions, you got 48 right, and that ends up being this percentage that you got right. So it's definitely a different...
Items
Yes,
correct
yes.
rather than percentile rank.
So does that, I
Yes,
think
it
that
does.
explains it to the,
Yep.
community better.
Thank you very much.
Ben?
I have several questions. Following up on Ron's question, though, surely a child that's reading at 35% percentile receives some assistance as opposed to a child who's reading at 70 percentile. So there must be some gradient there before you
Absolutely.
fall into tier 2, right?
Right, and we do, we also listen to the classroom teacher. Sometimes, we go by our assessment scores, but then a teacher might come to our TAT team, which is our teacher assistant team, and say, this one really isn't meeting the benchmark. She's struggling, she doesn't understand when she's reading, or she can't decode. And we do take that into consideration, and those children as well will come and get extra help if we find that it is necessary.
And then just an administrative question. These charts, these screenshots of charts that you showed us, do those become part of the child's permanent record and follow the child through the school?
Yes.
And
that
that's-
I know of, right?
Actually, Ben, that's a good question.
Thanks, Mark.
The IT department, actually, Tom Cranmer has assisted the teachers, myself, and administration in putting this assessment system onto the internal site at the district, the info site. So this allows classroom teachers, our reading teachers,
Helps us.
and as the kids progress through the grades, when they move out of our elementary schools, Ann Kalachi and Andy and the teachers at the middle school, when they enter 6th grade, they can go back and refer to the data and, help them make decisions when they place kids at grade 6.
Maybe you said it and I missed it. So do you create like an electronic folder for each child, and this just is filed into that folder? Is that how it's managed physically?
It's like a chart.
Or is it part of some software package that we've done?
Actually, Tom did the programming for this, listening to the teachers, listening to the administration. When classroom teachers have completed a unit assessment, and if they're done with reteaching and so forth, they then go on. It takes about 10 minutes or so to enter student data. There's little windows that they can enter the data onto the system. So it's fairly user-friendly.
Okay. And If I can ask, since we're talking about individual students now, I was just curious, is there, and this is starting, I guess, at kindergarten or first grade and then moving
As
up.
it moves up, yeah.
So is there movement between tier 1 and tier 2, tier 2 and tier 1? Tier
Constantly.
3 and tier 2? Do you see that kind of movement? Does it move
Yes.
both ways,
Yes,
up and down?
unfortunately it
And is
does.
it tied to just developmental, how the child develops over time, or some other issue?
And through assessment, each child is different. We look at each child as an individual child. And for example, last week there was a tier 3 student that all of a sudden has taken off. It's clicked for him. The programs that he was in worked, and he is now able to move into the tier 2 program, and he's doing beautifully. His mom wrote me a letter, a matter of fact, yesterday saying, wow, I can't believe it. But for him, he was using the SRA program, and it made a difference, and it was right for him.
Now, how far does this program go? To 7th grade, 8th grade?
It's throughout our elementary schools, and the middle school has been evolving the 3-tier approach at grade 6 and into 7 and into 8. So
The question I have is say you're a tier 2 child, or even a tier 3 child, or even a tier 1 child, at what point, and since we're talking about individual students,
Right.
do students change they lose interest, they lose motivation, they stop caring, they're no longer able to, for one reason or another, they lose interest in being proficient at reading? Does that happen? Do you see that happening?
I really don't see that happening. I think the educators here in Londonderry are excellent, and they're always trying to change, adapt, make things better. And do we have children that don't like to come to reading class? Absolutely, but we work with them, and really, the children really do want to do better. And for at least at the elementary level,
Right.
I find that they take it seriously and they want to be successful. I just think it's a wonderful program that we've put in place here, and there's a lot, the children really are making progress. I know we've charted children through time, and we found that if we give them the intervention at an early age, we've been more successful with getting them on to target, on to the grade level, and reading at grade level. I really feel it's a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you both very much.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maestro Susi,
Andy?
come on down. We always like it when you come too, because he's always got exciting news.
After China, I was wondering.
But you
what
don't
we were
have
gonna do
cookies.
For an encore.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Doing, Andy?
I'm delighted to bring terrific news this evening that the Londonderry High School Marching Lancers have been officially invited to participate in the 56th Presidential Inaugural Parade in January for the 44th President, President Barack Obama. So we just got this news over the weekend, and actually I got a call from Washington on Friday night, and I asked one of the dumbest questions I should have never asked. I said, when can I go public with this? Because if I hadn't asked, I don't know if they would have said anything. And they said, well, you really should wait till you get an official, the official invitation. So I said, when will that be? And he said, in about a week. So I said, I can't keep it quiet for a week. I said, I have a parade tomorrow. I've got a parade Sunday. And I said, I've got to tell the kids. And he says, no, you really have to tell the students. So he said, wait till you get the, don't make it anything official. So the next night, Saturday night, sometime in the evening, we got the electronic version. So even though the hard copy hasn't arrived, all the paperwork and a lot of things that we have to take care of. But I'd like to share a few things with you if I could. We've applied for this twice before and didn't get it. Basically, one unit per state. Every state gets representation. Most states get one representative. There are a few states I'm finding out this time around, like Michigan has 2 bands. Pennsylvania has 3. One is a Boy Scout group, which is neat, and they have a high school from the Pittsburgh area, and then different things like that. But we found out that Ohio University is going to be there. Florida A&M U is going to be there. The Cadets Drum and Bugle Corps. There's going to be a lot of college bands. We're going to be in terrific company. I mean, there are top-notch groups coming from all over the place. I'm sure there are others that I just can't think of, other standouts that I just can't think of right at the time. Usually for a presidential inaugural, there are 300 to 400 applicants for about 53 slots. This time around, this is nationwide. This time around, there were like, I think almost 1,400. I heard 1,500, and today I think the official number is like 1,383, so almost 1,400 groups from across the country. That includes everything from twirlers to horse groups and all different kinds of organizations that would like to represent their state. What that means is that this has been an incredibly enthusiastic response nationwide to be a part of this upcoming inauguration. They said that they're expecting, D.C. is expecting, Washington is expecting 4 to 5 million people to come into the city. And Martin Luther King Day is Monday, just the day before. So I'll just give you a quick highlight of what our plans are because we want to take everything into consideration. But we're going to leave on Sunday, the 18th. We'll get to our hotel. We're staying out of town, Baltimore, north of the city, about almost an hour. And then on Monday, we're not going to go into the city because that's just going to be like traffic jams all over the place. So we've got sites planned for the kids in the Baltimore area on Monday. And then early to bed because we don't know what our report time is going to be on Tuesday morning, but we figure it's going to be fairly early. And Tuesday morning, we go to the Pentagon and go through security, and then we go to the staging area. They're going to use the mall between the Lincoln Memorial and the Capitol for the first time for the inauguration. In the past, that has been a staging area. This is what I'm told, so we'll find out specifically when we get there. And then there'll be speakers all over the place and giant TV sets. And so I think the kids are going to feel like they're really, really experiencing history. And it is. They're going to be talking about this inauguration for generations to come. One of the things that's really interesting is that these students have to prepare to be outside for like, I don't know, probably 6 hours or more. The parade itself is a mile and a half, 45-minute march. They will see the president. The president in the reviewing stand in front of the White House will be just a few feet away from them. We're learning a lot. Pennsylvania Avenue, all the street lights come out, traffic lights are lifted, the mailboxes are taken off the sidewalks, the manholes are all sealed. I mean, I told the kids, this is a military operation. This is not a fooling around type of thing at all. You've got to be, anyone who comes up to you in uniform, you've got to be prepared to listen up and be cooperative every step of the way. Because we do not want to jeopardize our performance or our ability, our being allowed to perform. So we're nervous, we're excited. It's not something we've never done before, and we're honored to represent the state, especially this particular year. We've had an incredible experience 6 months ago in Beijing, and now we're going to Washington for another world event. The kids will be on TV around the world. There's no question. They'll see us in Asia. They'll see us in Europe. They'll be watching us in Australia. They'll be watching us all over the place. So it is an incredible opportunity. We have to provide Secret Service with all kinds of information by next week. We need to have a solid final roster by a week from this Friday, which is a real task. In the past, we've had like a year to prepare for a Rose Bowl parade or a year to prepare for China. This is like 5 weeks. And in fact, some of it's not even 5 weeks long. So we will be rehearsing a lot, including over the holiday break. But we're excited. We've had a lot of newspaper interviews. Fox 25 News has been to the music department already. Channel 9 has been doing stories on us. New England Cable News has been to visit us. Did a radio interview this morning. I'm doing another one Friday morning. It's just unbelievable, the attention. And I think it's part of the whole, the whole enthusiasm that's taking place across the country. And we're one of the fortunate ones to they get to go. The parade is going to be a little bit longer than in the past. They figure it's going to be a little over 2 hours. But everything is detailed, like 23 minutes, Division A, everything is all spelled out. The parade itself has a tempo, okay, 112. That's the pace of the parade. And if you don't keep up, you don't march. you have to be there. So you have to be right with the guide, the escort, the whole time. So we're thrilled, we're excited, and we're nervous. But it's definitely an exciting thing, and definitely more of a big deal than I thought. And I just want to remind people that when I say like the 1,400 applicants, I'm not talking about New Hampshire. I'm talking about nationwide. Okay, I don't know how many from New Hampshire applied, but I know there were several. Back, I think I know how many, but so we're just honored, and I didn't expect to get it, but we did. So, with that, I'd like to, if anybody would like to ask me any questions or whatever, I'll be happy to address them as best I can.
John?
Well, first off, congratulations. There were a number of us wondering what you were going to do to follow up China. I guess we found out. Your former drum captain is green with envy. But that being said, I think what I'd like to ask is what we as individuals in the community can do to help.
Well, I don't know how to answer that. Students are.
Let's start with the cost. I think this is something like $500 a student.
It's going to be $500 a student to participate. What we did, we sent out a survey back in November 7th. And I didn't want to tell anybody till we knew for sure. But I was getting nervous, and I said, I just can't drop this bombshell on families. So we figured, we really felt we stood a good chance. So back in November, we sent a letter to the families, and we told them that we have participated, and we have participated in the past, never made it, but we needed to know how many would plan on taking part in this activity if it were to come our way. And so we built a roster, a tentative roster back then, and we told them at the time we estimated about $455, and then when we finally put everything together, we figured we estimated 500, and so that's what we're doing. So they kind of knew it was coming. I'm worried about a few of them. We're going to have to help out a few, and we'll do our best. We can't help out everybody. We'll see what happens. I've asked Mr. Bill Gardocki to help us out with corporate. Maybe we can, help out, and if we get, there's so many different ways to approach this. We're just waiting to see what happens. We've got things, we're making people know that there's a financial need here, and if they can help us, terrific, and if they can't, they can't. But we're hearing some nice things that are being considered by some organizations right now. Like one organization is thinking of donating $1,000 to help out needy kids here and there. So we might break that up into 4 scholarships or whatever, or maybe $200 scholarships, 5 of those. So we'll see what happens. Maybe someone would like to pick up a breakfast at the hotel some morning. Maybe some company would like to pay for a bus for a day. There are different things that could happen, and then we could just, even if we give families a rebate a little bit after the trip, or even before the trip, those are all things that could happen. Depends on how things go. We are well aware it's a tough economic time. We didn't pick this historical moment, and we can't walk away from it.
Well, again, congratulations.
Thank you.
This is an awesome achievement.
Thank you.
Yep, Steve?
Yeah, I remember in past events, you've done that, sponsor a breakfast, sponsor a dinner, that type of thing. I know that we donated displays to put on easels in the lobby, so we'd be happy to do that again, so that when the kids walk through the doors, the chaperones walk through the doors, they would know that their local businesses were supporting them. So that would be
Steve,
good.
that's great, thanks, and that's good for the kids to see, and make people aware. And that's the only thing we can give them in return is advertising. So, and we'd be happy to do that.
Well,
Thank you.
and a good group of leaders.
Oh, thank you.
How many days out of school?
Well, we don't want to keep the kids out too late, too many days. So it's 4 days. It's 2 days of school. It was Sunday, and Monday is already a holiday. So they'll be missing Tuesday. We even thought about the 20th is a Tuesday. Inauguration is always on the 20th. We even thought about bringing the students back after the parade, but we wouldn't get home till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and that's not a good idea. They're not going to be really functioning at a reasonable level in school that day. So we decided we'll have a celebration dinner that night, and then we'll leave early Wednesday morning, and then I'll get back. We're hoping around 9 o'clock that evening. We'll see, and then back to school on Thursday.
But it's just 2 school days.
2 school days, yes, sir.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Andy, you never cease to amaze us, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but I want to say
Need to do
that-
those kids.
Thank you, but I just want to point out, I'm not trying to outdo what we've done. This was an opportunity, and everybody keeps saying, what are you going to do next?
He said it.
We've already, we've,
Yeah, I'm the only
Tranquility
one.
Base.
there's some great things right. Next year, we're going to Lowell.
That's great.
We're going to hear from their Chamber of Commerce.
So already now, we got to bounce these things around. Thanks so much. Thanks, Andy. Good luck. Let us know if there's anything that we can do collectively. Okay. Let's see.
High school program is that.
Mr. Parent and crew. Hey, I could have said Mr. Parent and posse. That's right. This way you don't have to dodge as many bullets.
Good evening. If I may, I just wanted to let the board know that tonight was Meet the Coaches Night for winter athletics. And again, it was a success. Several hundred people attended, parents and student athletes and the coaches. And Howard Soboloff, our athletic director, did a terrific job just highlighting our expectations with our student athletes and our programs. And then there was a breakout session for each sport. And again, it was met with success and high interest, and we'll do it again for the spring. So we're happy to see that that's taking place with our sports programs. For this evening, we are pleased to propose our 2009-2010 program of studies for the board's approval. We have our new mission statement and expectations in that document, along with a few changes, and we'd like to highlight for this presentation our new courses. We would like to offer political and spatial geography, and that's for grades 11 and 12. It's a semester 1 class where students will demonstrate an understanding of the physical and human geographic features that define our world and the forces of cooperation and conflict that exist among peoples. In addition, students demonstrate an understanding of the physical processes that shape the Earth's surface and the characteristics of the world's political systems. There is a follow-up course, which will be offered to those students in the spring, entitled Social and Environmental Geography, and this course studies the complexity of the world's cultural mosaic, including the issues of race and religion, culture, and language. This study of environmental geography will touch upon the issues of pollution, desertification, rainforest depletion, global warming, rising sea levels, and their effect upon the world's human population. Our rationale for proposing these two courses are that geography inspires students to become global citizens by exploring their place in the world, their values and responsibilities to other people, to the environment, and to the sustainability of the planet. And this is a state recommendation for offering geography. Another course we would like to see run is our research seminar course for 11th and 12th graders offered semester 1 and 2. In this course, students will conduct a semester-long research project on a topic they select, incorporating the action research model. This method of research challenges the students to identify real-life questions or problems that affect their lives, their school, or their community. Students will gather data using interviews, surveys, and questionnaires, and put together a quantitative or qualitative analysis. The rationale behind this course is that it'll provide the opportunity for the student to be actively engaged in authentic inquiry on a topic of their choosing. Woodworking for Women is offered for students in grades 9 through 12, semester 1 and 2. And this is a one-semester course designed specifically for women. No previous woodworking experience is required. Students will learn woodworking skills and safety techniques necessary to create a variety of projects. Topics will include the safe use and care of common hand and power tools, woodworking from plans, assembly and finishing techniques, and wood products. In the past, gender has not been a barrier in our tech ed department, although recent enrollment trends indicate that there is an imbalance in male and female enrollment in these types of courses. So there are a lot fewer females enrolling in woodworking programs, so we thought this would be a good course to offer. And finally, Spanish 2A and 2B. On Spanish 2A, this course continues the development of the 4 basic skills acquired in Spanish 1. It introduces more vocabulary and grammatical concepts along with readings and composition work. Spanish 2B is similar to Spanish 2A. This course is designed for the student who feels some additional reinforcement of Spanish conversation and grammatical skills would be helpful before moving to Spanish Level 3. Spanish 2B introduces vocabulary and grammatical concepts along with readings and composition work. And our reasoning for offering this is that it's a tiered program which has been implemented in order to better meet the needs of all students of Spanish and to better prepare our students for continued foreign language instruction. So those were the new courses offered in the program of studies for 2009-2010, and we are happy to address any questions or hear any comments from the board.
Real quick question, Jason. What are minimum numbers for students like the woodworking for women? What is the minimum number to go, no-go for that class, and also for the research seminar?
Okay. The state requirement for a tech
I
ed
would,
course
yeah, I would say
be,
11 to 12 we'd
Right.
be looking at to make it run.
and I
To
think the
run
state
11 to
requirement.
12? Okay,
yeah,
thank
and
you.
on the max end, I think it's 16.
16 would be the cap for each, the most. Probably the research class would be a little smaller, mandate it, make it happen.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
I'm going to take you up on the comment section.
Okay.
I want to voice my displeasure and disagreement with Spanish 2A and 2B. I think I understand why we're doing it, but philosophically I do not agree. I think it's wrong, and I think it's the wrong approach. Fortunately, I was voted down, but I just felt like I should say that again. Second, with respect to political and spatial geography and social and environmental geography, I mean, I think these are good classes, but I think this segues into probably the most popular major in college right now, which is environmental economics, which really goes nowhere. I mean, in the workplace, there is no place to go with environmental economics. And then again, this is just my perception. And while I don't disagree with the content or the courses, I think that disclaimer needs to be balanced. When you're going this route, you need to understand that as an area of study, environmental economics is great, but if you have some expectation that it's going to derive some specific benefit in the job marketplace, it's not. I mean, my take on it is not there. So those are my observations. Comments only.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Anybody else? Yes.
On the research seminar, I think that's an excellent idea. Question I have is, how are we incorporating the concept that you're given here into the regular English courses for age? So that this here looks like a very specialized course, and there's going to be very limited number of students that this will appeal to. But the concept that you're offering this course needs to be given to all the college-bound students. How are we incorporating that into our curriculum?
If you want to address
Throughout
that,
the English courses, and you've been at the C3 meeting, so you know that we've been revising the benchmarks, and we're offering research to the students both through their information technology benchmarks as well as their English benchmarks. We're putting it in there so that both, starting at the freshman level up through the senior level, there's research incorporated into all their English courses. The benchmarks that you had seen at our C3 meeting, we're in the process of revising to make sure that it's clear that those benchmarks do include the research component. We actually will be working with Sue Ballard when she brings her benchmarks for the library and research, so we can bring the two and put them side by side, so you can see the English benchmarks side by side with those research benchmarks that they work on through the library. So for example, in the junior English, those research rubrics are very apparent. That's the tech-rich class. In the freshman level, the students are getting it both in their English courses as well as in their social studies classes, where you have every freshman who takes world history spending periods in the library doing research, getting those basics of research. And then all the courses from that point subsequently are piggybacking on that background that they've gotten there.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll make a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the program of studies for the 2009-2010 school year at the high school.
We're voting on all of this,
Everything.
not just this.
The whole thing is.
No, the whole thing
It's
is
the whole thing.
together.
No habla inglés?
Well, I'd like to split them.
I have a motion.
Vote no again.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Next up is middle school mobile lab report. Sue Ballard, Andy Corey, Joe Oswald, Ellen Romanowski, and Annie Galacci.
I don't want to vote no on the whole package. Still wrong.
One of the acquisitions that was made as a part of the Technology Committee's recommendation to the school board earlier this year was a mobile lab at Londonderry Middle School. The intent was to replace the training lab that we had at Moose Hill School, which we used for Teachers Academy, and a lab at Londonderry Middle School that was in 126. So instead of replacing two labs, which we needed to do, we combined it and replaced it with one lab, which became a mobile lab. At the time that the board okayed that, there was an expression of concern about how this was going to be used for students, and we said we would come back to the board in late November, early December with what had happened. So Mr. Corey has some remarks. I'm sure that we prepared a report for the board package. We have a short video that we'd like to share with the board and ask your indulgence because camera operator did not use an external mic in a couple of sections, so you'll hear a buzz from the overhead lights. But I think it expresses how we are using mobile technology at the middle school.
Do you want to put that up first?
Take that mic for the home audience.
Find somebody with more technical ability to handle the lights than me. Oh, great. Good job.
Well, I get the IT director.
I think the mobile lab has actually increased instructional time. I've observed it in a world language class and a science venue, and in both instances, the kids are entering the class and they're immediately engaged, as opposed to going to the computer lab. The students had to, pack up their materials again, walk down to the lab, put the materials down, get the instructions again, and there is that disconnect. Whereas in the classroom setting, the students are used to the routine. The only difference is now they're just doing their instruction on a computer as opposed to maybe taking notes or doing group activities. So I think it's been a great new piece of technology that's enhancing teaching.
Today I did a walkthrough in a seventh grade math classroom that was using the mobile lab to supplement a chapter that they had just completed on variables and patterns. The software was wonderful, but the ability to be in the classroom where the teacher could sit and converse with each student when they needed her, and she could stand in front of the class and all of them could see her from that location, that she had a visual of all the screens as they were being used was a huge piece, I think, of the success of this lesson. The students were 100% engaged in the entire period. In fact, she had to talk them into leaving the class, so that was also a plus. And it was nice to see it being used in a math classroom versus some of the more traditional places that you might see it, social days and science. And I think this is because it is able to come into the classroom and use it at the point that it's needed versus scheduling it at the beginning of the year and taking her class down to the stationary lab.
Our most recent use of a laptop lab was for WebQuest, an ecosystem biome WebQuest. And I think what the lab allowed us to do was access our science materials here in the classroom. We had supplemented materials with pieces from the library. The kids had access to their lab work right here. And then it also allowed them to work right within their lab partner tables so that they didn't have to just change settings into a computer lab setting.
Well, I love having the portable lab because I would waste maybe 5, 10, even 15 minutes gathering all the students to get down to the downstairs lab and then bringing them back on time so they could get to their next class. Also, if they forgot something, it's quite a ways for them to come back to get what they need to work on. Here, everything is where they need it. I can walk around, I can check on everyone. we're still in the pod, so we're not late for our next classes. I like using laptops because if you're using a laptop, you still have all the classroom resources that you get in the classroom.
What I'd like to say is, as you complete your 3-minute walkthroughs as an administrator, and each administrator has done at least 2, and we have always tried to do our walkthrough so that the students were on the same number of days. So if I was going in and they were working with the second day of the mobile lab, the next time I went in to observe a teacher, it would be on her second day, just to see the consistency. And what we see is an engagement that you don't necessarily see in the computer lab. Why? I really can't tell you. I probably would have maybe somewhat agreed with Ron's point of what's the difference between going to a room and what's the difference between having it in front of you. I think what I'm learning the difference is this is what these children are so used to. You know, they're used to having their own individual computer, working at their own pace, and having the mobility of a laptop. We have not completed a survey on how many of them are used to using laptops. That's something that came up at our last meeting, to find out what are they actually using at home, because it seems that laptops are getting much more prevalent. But it is working wonderfully. It is being used on a constant basis. When you combine the mobile lab with the 2 curriculum labs and the 3 stationary teaching computer class labs, there is a wealth of information going on that is to the benefit of the kids in the technology. I'd like to thank all the teachers who were in the video, all those teachers who have submitted written summaries of how it was used in their classes. I'd like to thank Joe and Sue for all their efforts to assist the middle school in making this an integral part of our program. I'd also like to thank Joe again for her effort on the video, and then for Annie and Ellen for all their behind-the-scenes work to make sure the logistics. I mean, one of the things we had to solve was how do we get it out every day and how do we get it back? And I need to thank our custodial staff, because the night custodians deliver it, so when you arrive in the morning, if you have it scheduled, it's sitting in your room. And then Allison Bowen comes down and has it all set up. At the end of the day, the afternoon custodian goes and retrieves it, brings it back to Joe's room, and it's locked up for the evening while it's charging. So a lot of the logistics have been solved by our custodians, and oftentimes we forget that they're always there behind the scenes. So at this point, I take any questions the board might have, and it is our hope to come back in the March, April timeframe and give another update on this.
Steve?
I have one statement for the superintendent and then one question for Sue Ballard. Nate, the one thing that impressed me the most about the video, it's not the technology, but the staff members. Every one of them that was in that video was genuinely excited and happy and powerful. I mean, they were just, this is what they want to do for the rest of their life, and it gives me tingles. I mean, it's a good thing. Sue, this is a related question, but what do you think of the Wyndham School District, which is issuing laptops for, every student? We heard one of the students here, or one of the teachers here, say that they wish they could have this lab in their classroom all day, every day. And Chairman Herman said, well, then it wouldn't be portable, or maybe it was you, but then it would be permanent. But what if we? What do you think of that concept of everyone having a laptop?
Ideally, that would be great. Practically, from an economic standpoint, from a support standpoint, I wish them luck, because it will be very difficult to maintain that one-on-one. We try and leverage our resources as best we can to get as much use out of them as we can. But I will tell you, I think fundamentally, the transformational thing about using technology is the ease of access. I remember when email was first instituted in the Londonderry School District, and administrators were told we needed to use it. Ken Brewer was still here. Ken Brewer and I shared a terminal, a dumb terminal, along with several other people. There were probably 5 or 6 users assigned to that one terminal. Whenever I had a chance to check email, somebody else was on it. So my learning curve in terms of understanding what I could do and how I could use it was quite limited for several years until finally the day came when it was just Ken and I assigned to the terminal, and that meant it was just me assigned it. And finally, that was the transformational opportunity, when it was there, when I needed it. That was the difference.
Thanks.
Bonnie? I guess I understand the lab. Coming in 2 days is almost like a special event. Okay? I guess I'm to the, philosophically, I'm to the point is, what do we need to put in a classroom? You're not going to get 24 labs and computers in every classroom, but what is the number that we need to do in a classroom to make it available not once every month or once every 2 months, but a continuous and integrated part of the curriculum, no different than the pencil, no different than calculator. And that's where we have to look to go. I think the technology that was brought forth, that we can do that cheaper than we were able to do before, makes this now a vision that the district should have, that the technology is in the classroom and is being used as easily as a pencil, as easily as a calculator. And it's no big deal that the computers are in there. And I think that's the transformation we have to make. That's the first question. I don't know the answer to that, but that's something I'd like to know. Second question I have for Sean is, we have, or you see now, just going Christmas shopping, the $350 computers or the $400 computers, the real small ones, the compacts. Is that a viable situation as opposed to a $1,200 computer that we're buying and using them in multiple, have a couple of labs going around the building for the power and what we're doing there?
Maybe. I have some of those minis coming that you're talking about that we're going to test out.
Okay, because I mean, it seems like there's other ways to skin this cat other than, you know, a $24,000 lab where we can maybe get 2 labs in its place, or a combination of a lab and some additional computers. Is it 4? Is it 6? Is it 8? I don't know the number, but it's only one big terminal on the bottom that can handle 2 or 3 of them. So I think that's, you know, there's what my vision is, to go down that pathway of seeing how we get there.
John?
To follow up on what Ron said, we were talking about thin clients, and I think you mentioned wireless thin clients the other day. Is that technology on a path where it could provide what Ron's talking about?
It's definitely on that path. I don't know how soon it's going to get there. We've had a couple of units come in that are thin client laptops that are basically the same device with a wireless card in it. And the problem with those that we've seen, and I do think this is something that's going to be viable in the near future, but the ones that are out there now, the one we had and tested was $750 with no warranty. So you add on the $200 that we spend for these warranties, and we're basically at the price of a whole laptop.
Yeah.
I think in the real short term, the best option, if it does work for us, is these minis. And I don't know the answer to that yet. We do have some coming that we'll be testing out. I do think realistically, though, that, you know, there is a real possibility for those.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, John. Ben?
Yeah, can we back up for a second? When is it appropriate to have a laptop in the classroom all the time? I mean, when is that technology appropriate? At what age group? Is it appropriate at the 8th grade or 7th grade or 6th grade? I'm just sitting here wondering, are we getting in front of ourselves, advocating for technology in the classroom, on the desk, for every subject? Is it really needed?
I think it's needed at times. For example, there are times when, as an instructor, you want all your kids to have access to the same tools simultaneously
Well, we're talking
in
about-
the classroom. And that's why the mobile lab fulfilled that for us. Teachers can plan ahead and think about what those opportunities are. At other times, it would be great to have additional computers, more than the couple we have in every classroom, to reach a threshold that would suffice and allow kids to move ahead in small groups or those sorts of things. But daily, I'm not sure we're there yet.
Yeah, I mean, the thin client solution sounds like we're putting laptops or some type of computing device on every desk in every classroom.
What I'm visioning is something similar to the 11th grade tech-rich classrooms where there is, I think, 6 computers or 8 computers there where you can rotate it into your curriculum and use it, and it'll be used more than not a computer on every desk, because that's economically impossible, and it wouldn't be used all the time. But I believe there are times that we have it, that we could be able to use it as part of the curriculum, and I think it'll be integrated into the curriculum. And I guess, the more and more you look at the curriculum, the more and more you're doing the research here. You've got the work that's being done at all levels, and I'm just seeing is that we've been limited by the cost of computers. And I'm looking for a 1-to-3 ratio for students, or, somewhere in that ratio in those classes, especially at the middle school, where they're learning to use it more and more and move it up to the high school type of level.
I think I voted against the computers in the 11th grade English class whenever that came up a while back. But
And we'll take that with a
I don't want to be the whatever the word is, crungemon or whatever that word is to describe the old cranky guy. But my sense of it is just that while I'm certainly in favor of technology, I use it every day in my work. I mean, there's a balance that you have to strike between having a computer available to everybody in every class and then just books and the traditional. And I guess it would be something that I'd want to have a better understanding of before I made any decision to go down the thin client or any other route. The mobile solution sounds appropriate because you move it in and out as needed on an as-needed basis, and I would be a minimalist in terms of, bringing the technology into the classroom, but I think I just would have to understand it better.
Ben, for clarity's sake, when I was asking about wireless thin clients, I was thinking specifically about a portable device.
Annie, let me ask the question a little differently, or Annie. One lab enough for you, or how many labs would you really want?
Yeah, I mean, more is better, but at the same time, to the overall point, I think we can't discount the 3 Alpha Smart labs that we have used now to kind of get word processing, in an appropriate setting, so we're not taking up lab time, because those can be delivered to the room. I think your suggestion of some stationary computers that exist in room, because I do think there is, especially at middle school, a lot of where you're doing different segments. So 4 or 5 kids could be doing a research while 4 or 5 kids are doing the experiment on the table and working through that. And then I think there are appropriate times to have a mobile lab, and I still believe that there are appropriate times to go to a computer lab. So I think I come back to that word of the balance. I don't know what the balance is, but I think over, the next year to 18 months, we can probably, looking at the new products coming out and the data that we're gathering, come back to the board and give you a very realistic, feasible economic plan that will allow us to accomplish what we hope to do technology-wise, but still meet the traditional needs of middle school.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Anybody else? Thank you very much.
You guys, appreciate it. Next up is Kim and Jill, Special Ed, State of the Union.
Couldn't get much out of the conversation.
That's pretty fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
They got their own little logo. The Office of the Special Education. Oh, I was on the mic, sorry.
Good evening. I know you're all eagerly anticipating our budget presentation on Thursday, but it had been talked about and thought that it would be a great idea to use this board meeting to set the stage for that budget presentation and give you a State of the Union in special education here in Londonderry. And as my friend Mr. Dolphin says, the State of the Union is good. But more specifically, first I want to just thank Connie, Beth, Cheryl, Linda, Grace, and Lynn, who are my cogs in the wheels in the buildings, who helped Jill and I oversee the special education department here in Londonderry. And they are here tonight. I want to thank them for coming. Linda had a family emergency or would have been here tonight. First of all, for those of you who might not be familiar with how we get here, the very first law that governed any type of person with any type of handicapping condition was actually in 1798. And it had absolutely nothing to do with children, as you can well imagine. It wasn't until the 1960s, with the Elementary and Secondary Education Acts, that children with disabilities were even begun to be thought of and included in public schools. And it wasn't until Public Law 94-142 in 1975, the Education for All Handicapped Children, where there was actual legislation governing their inclusion in our public school system. That law was amended in 1983, 86, 90, when it became the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, 97, and then once again in 2004. All of those combined to ensure that children with disabilities are receiving a free and appropriate public education. Nationally, there are 6.8 million children with disabilities who access the public school system. Here in Londonderry, on the one snapshot day in time that we were preparing for our budget, there were 949. That changes daily. About 17% of our population here in Londonderry are children identified with a disability. What governs us, other than the federal law, IDEA, is the regulatory statute 186C in New Hampshire and the New Hampshire rules. Both Nate and our legislatures have already referenced those rules here tonight. We go by our lilac book, formerly the banana book. The new rules that comply with 2004 went through rulemaking and came into effect on June 30th. Like to just go back to the unfunded mandate conversation. To be clear, last year, both Brian and I were a part of a group that cost out what we considered unfunded mandates, all the way down to the cost of the envelope and the stamp for the unfunded mandates of mailing things that IDEA does not call for, but the New Hampshire rules do. So we certainly did our very best effort to try to point that out to our friends up in Concord. One of the big pieces of the updated laws are compliance accountability. And one of the methods of that is the SPP, or State Performance Plan. And that is something that every state, all 50 states of the Union, need to report federally to OSEP, the Office of Special Education Programming. And in order to get the data, our state of New Hampshire has 12 indicators that they require each district to report on. And then there is a district report card, or district data profile. Londonderry's profile was just released on the DOE website 2 weeks ago, I believe, and the data reflects 06-07. And I will say that in 05-06, there were 2 areas of compliance that Londonderry was not at 100%, and we are now at 100%. and those have to do with evaluation timelines. One of the areas that the New Hampshire rules surpass or exceed IDEA, as Nate already alluded to, is in the evaluation timelines. Federal law indicates that you have 60 days in which to complete an initial evaluation and no timeline on a reevaluation. Here in New Hampshire, we have 45 days in which to complete either one of those with a one-time only 15-day extension. I can tell you right now, I got a referral yesterday and told the parent right up front that I would be requesting that 15-day extension. If you look at 10 days out of school for Christmas break and that timeline or calendar days, 45 days is a very quick timeline. Another area that the New Hampshire rules surpass IDEA is in transition. IDEA indicates that at 16 years old, you need to have comprehensive transition plans in a student's IEP. In New Hampshire, it's 14. And the third piece that I just wanted to bring to the board and the public's attention is the level of paperwork. The spirit of IDEA 2004 was to try to streamline some of the paperwork and compliance mandates to allow instructors, special educators, to be where they should be with children. And unfortunately, that was not the case in the New Hampshire rules, and there's still a lot of paperwork and timelines that have to be met. And that absolutely has an impact on our staff. You all have a copy of my executive summary for the budget presentation, but I did want to just highlight a few things. In compliance with ED 1111, which are the New Hampshire rules, the Londonderry School District offers a continuum of service, including full inclusion programs where children with disabilities are fully included in the general curriculum, through a myriad of self-contained programs for our complex and low-incident populations. We have our Friends 1, 2, and 3 programs for our autistic population, our PALS, our BAS, and our ACT programs for our cognitively impaired population, our PFS elementary and middle school programs for our emotional and behaviorally disordered population, FLEX, which stands for Friendship and Learning Experiences at the high school for children on the autism spectrum, and our transition and our EH self-contained programs at the high school for our emotionally and behaviorally disordered population. We've talked about it already. Nate has mentioned it in his budget presentation. I will mention it as many times as I'm allowed in mine, that all of those programs together from fiscal year 06 through fiscal year 10 to 2010 next year has an $18 million price tag in cost avoidance. In Londonderry, we have a philosophical commitment to educate children in their community schools. We believe we can do as good, if not better, than out-of-district placements. And we have built capacity in order to educate the children where they belong in their neighborhood schools. Where'd it go?
In Whaling.
This is a chart that you have in your board packet. It's also a copy of the same chart that's in the executive summary. And it's basically, obviously, a 7-year look at our building population. But at this point, what I'd really like to do is ask you to not look at the numbers. Because oftentimes when special education presents, we talk about numbers and statistics and percentages. And what I'd really like to highlight at this point is that all of our students are Londonderry students first. And the numbers on that chart are really representative of children. They're scared 3-year-olds, they're excited first graders, they're budding scientists and teachers, they're athletes, they're members of the band that will be walking down Pennsylvania Avenue on January 20th, and they're high school graduates. And sometimes I think we get lost in that when we start talking just about numbers. And so I wanted to really take this opportunity to remind everyone that there are 949 children that we're talking about. You can go back to the numbers now. One of the things that you can see is that we had sort of a population bubble in fiscal years 07 and 08, and that our enrollments are going down, notably at the elementary level. There are a couple of reasons for this that I'll talk about later in the trends and projections, but next year we are projected to be at a population of about 906. And like I said, that changes daily. The other thing that you have in your board packet, and also part of the executive summary, is the identification by primary disability. I want to highlight that that's primary. Many of our children have more than one area of identified disability. In New Hampshire, we have 14 labels. A lot of people use the word labels that we have to give a child when we're determining eligibility. Are they learning disabled? Are they autistic? Are they hearing impaired? And you have to actually label the child in the area of disability. And many of our students have more than one. But this chart indicates their primary disability. 40% of our identified population have a specific learning disability. A couple of other areas of note, if you compare from about 2004 to now, about 4 years worth of time, you can see that our numbers in our autistic population and our developmentally delayed population continue to grow. Our current enrollment is broken up by students that participate in our inclusionary program and then students that participate in our self-contained programs. So the number of 278 at the high school does not include the 25 children in ACT, 12 in FLEX, 20 in trans, and the 10 in our emotionally handicapped self-contained program. In your executive summary packet for the budget presentation, you also have graphs that look at every building, every program, both 09, our current population, and our projected population for next year. Trends and projections. In terms of our population of children on the autism spectrum disordered, we continue to see more students that are being diagnosed with autism, pervasive development disorder, PDD, and Asperger's syndrome. These students require intensive programming, often in the areas of language, problem solving, language pragmatic, social skills, written expression. And this is a national trend, it is a statewide trend, it is a Londonderry trend. There are all kinds of theories on why. I would not even begin to speculate, but it is certainly a medical, what's the word I'm looking for, phenomenon that the educational system is being asked to service. And we continue to work very, very hard here in Londonderry to provide the appropriate supports for our children with this diagnosis. Currently, there are 47 students in Londonderry with the diagnosis of autism, and the total number of students identified makes up 5% of our identified population. That number is greater than on the chart before because some of our children do not have autism as their primary area of disability. For our emotional and behavioral disordered population, again, we are seeing more intensive students being diagnosed with mental health illness. We know that many people that may have mental illness begin to manifest the symptoms of that after puberty as they start to matriculate into their high school years, and we have seen that here in Londonderry. There are 86 students currently being served under this identification, and that makes up 9% of our identified population. Again, the number is different than on the chart previously because not all children have this as their primary diagnosis or disability. Londonderry Early Education Program. Again, we continue to see an increase of our preschool students with intensive needs as seen by the increase in our autism population, developmentally delayed population, and our other health impairment. I had asked Lynn when I was preparing the budget if she could give me a list of the medical conditions that we were seeing in LEAP. And I do have that list, and I can tell you that there are some medical conditions I had never heard of. They are severe, and these children require a lot of support. We have rolling enrollment in LEAP. As children turn 3, they come to LEAP. It doesn't matter if it's September, January, or July. And because of that, and because, again, children turn 3 all year long, we often have a large increase in our identified population comparing September to June. Last year, we had a 46% increase in our enrollment. We started at 48 students in October, and we ended the year with 70 identified students. Also, the individual student programming needs change. You start with a 3-year-old or even a 4-year-old who might have specific programming needs that then increase either in the length of day or the number of days that they attend LEAP, and that has an impact on transportation. Kindergarten. We have an increase in our kindergarten numbers. When kindergarten started in 2002, we had 15 special education students. Next year, we project to have 36 special education students in our kindergarten program at Moose Hill. And further, the needs of this population have intensified. Next year, we anticipate having 3 students that will likely then matriculate to Matthew Thornton into our PALS program, the BAS population, and 3 students that are supported by our friend staff in the autistic program. You heard tonight a presentation about the 3-tiered reading model, and basically that is the spirit of RTI. We know we have declining numbers at our elementary level. I believe that there are 2 reasons behind that. First of all, we know that in general, our enrollment numbers are down at the elementary level. But in addition to that, we have instituted RTI, response to intervention, at our elementary, middle, and high school level. And the support services provided through RTI have increased. This is resulting in fewer students being referred, then identified as children with disabilities, and an increase on the demands of the special education staff in mostly the primary grades, grades 1 through 3, in supporting both Tier 3 and Tier 2 students prior to them being referred to the special education process. The whole idea behind RTI is to hit them early with the interventions that they need in order to hopefully avoid a disability later. To give you an example, when I was preparing for the budget, I asked for some hard numbers, and in October, North School special education staff were supporting 24 non-identified students through RTI, and at Matthew Thornton, that number was 40 through RTI that the special education staff were supporting. At our high school, in our ACT, Academic and Career Training, right, Connie? And our FLEX program, we continue to see a number of students staying through until the age of 21. And the enrollment in the ACT and FLEX program has remained stable since '07, despite a drop in the number of students transitioning. So while there's only 1 or 2 that are going from 8th to 9th grade, we don't have 1 or 2 graduating in that same year. So we still have quite a bubble between the 2 programs. And the Individuals with Disabilities Act mandate that we program for these students to include community, leisure, recreational activities, as well as intensive instruction in their daily living skills in order to prepare them for whatever path they're choosing in their post-secondary careers. Basically, these are the students that have very detailed, very intense transition plans through their high school career. In our vision and hearing impaired population, we have an increased need in the consultation and instruction from certified teachers of both the visually and the hearing impaired. And this is coming at the exact same time as the Department of Ed has ended a grant that funded a lot of these consultations. And so now the ATEC services that we used to get this consultation from and the assessment from is now costing the district $100 an hour plus mileage. And so we have sort of a perfect storm in terms of this population. We are currently servicing 12 students with visual impairments and 7 with hearing impairments. We also purchase the tools and support the function and maintenance on 18 pieces of auditory and visual equipment across the district. This equipment could be anything from an FM auditory trainer, which helps amplify the voice of the speaker, in most cases the teacher, to hearing aids or Braille equipment. We also see an impact on children with both medical conditions and the need for assistive technology. We have seen a significant increase in the number of students with chronic and debilitating medical needs, students who require one-on-one nursing care, and often homebound programming, which is that's not the same as homeschooled. We currently have 2 students that require one-on-one nursing care throughout the day, and we are currently providing special education services to 8 students at home due to medical conditions preventing them from currently coming to the public school. And students are continuing to require greater access to technology to compensate for disabilities. And this is seen in the increased need for speak-to-talk software. That could be anything from what we call a Dynavox, where very specific vocabulary and phrases are loaded onto a box that could be the size of, about that big, to one that's maybe the size of a book, depending on the student, that would talk for that student as they push the icons, all the way through to what we call Dragon Naturally Speaking, which is a voice to print text that allows people to talk to then have the computer produce their written work. This requires training for both staff and students on the software. Every individual student may have unique technology needs. So one Dynavox for one student may not be programmed the same way for another, and our speech pathologists and our OTs work diligently on this. All of the things that I've talked about tonight also have staff impact. We continue to have staff work on intensive remedial services to help children meet AYP. We continue to work through the RTI model to provide targeted instruction in reading, math, written expression, and behavior management. Staff who are providing our direct teaching to students must meet the mandates of HQT. This is particularly difficult at the secondary level, where you might have a certified teacher in general special education, but you need them to also be teaching math and science. And so they must be highly qualified in the content areas as well. I've talked about the federal shift in reducing paperwork, and that was not seen here in New Hampshire. And so we have more paperwork compliance for staff to meet, which obviously takes them away from time that they could be working with children. We have an increased demand on our preschool staff to meet the child find requirements and transition requirements for children coming out of our early supports and services. What used to start at age 3 now starts at age 2. Lynn gets monthly updates from early supports and services on children that they are servicing birth to age 3. We have a list of children who will be turning 3 next year. That's currently at 24 that we know may be eligible for special education services here in Londonderry. And all of the transition, the disposition of referral, evaluation, eligibility determination, and IEP writing all has to be completed prior to the 3rd birthday. So that's a lot of work long before the child even reaches the age of 3 for our preschool staff. And staff continue to need to require a greater understanding in the integration of assistive technology, like I just spoke about. I'd like to remind both the board and the public that as our enrollment and population changes, we have also tried to be diligent in shift in staffing. During the FY08 budget, the teacher from the multisensory program at the high school was reassigned to our elementary BAS, our PALS program. .5 teacher from LMS was moved to kindergarten, and the other half of that teacher was moved to the FLEX program at the high school. And in our current budget cycle, 09, we had one full-time teacher move from Matthew Thornton to LEAP, and one from South moved to the high school as a case manager. Jill?
Special transportation is a related service included in IEPs that is required by federal and state law. In district, we are currently serving 130 students who receive special transportation. I have listed the buildings and the number of students who receive the special transportation. Moose Hill has a significant amount more students who receive special transportation, and this is due to the continued enrollment at the LEAP program, and majority to most of those students receive special transportation. Out of district transportation, we are currently transporting 17 students to 9 placements. We are in our second year of a 5-year contract with the provider. Within that contract, we have ride-share opportunities with other districts to allow us to reduce the cost of those trips. Due to the large number of students who do receive the special transportation, we do have daily communication with the transportation company for troubleshooting issues, authorizing changes, and also scheduling and organizing field trips for in-school programs. Extended school year. ED 1110 indicates that a school district must provide extended school year if the IEP team determines it is necessary for the provisions of FAPE. Londonderry currently offers ESY from preschool through high school. In 2008, 185 students were enrolled in the programs throughout the district. We had over 86 staff members who provided services to our students. A program of studies in an extended school year matrix will be presented to the Special Ed Committee in late winter of 2009 for case managers to use during the IEP process. One might ask why ESY services are important or why they're necessary to be included in a student's IEP, and it is the regression or the decline of knowledge and skills that is a direct result from the interrupted education.
Out-of-district placements, our most volatile account. Out-of-district placements are required when a school district cannot meet the needs of a student in the public school. There are many reasons why a child may require an out-of-district placement. It can be that the public school does not offer the least restrictive environment. It could be that the student is placed in an out-of-district placement by the court, and the school district is responsible for the educational costs.
If you don't mind, could you explain what the least restricted environment means?
I absolutely can. By law, every school district must offer a continuum from the regular ed classroom, resource room classroom, self-contained classroom, out-of-district placement, hospital, or institution. The law mandates that you must provide the educational services a child needs in the least restrictive or the most general, for lack of a better word, or most regular ed programming available. A great example might be that if a child needs a one-on-one assistant to access the regular curriculum in the regular classes, and that's appropriate, you cannot then say, in lieu of giving them a one-on-one assistant, we're going to put them in a resource room or self-contained class. If they can be educated and should be educated in the general curriculum, then that's where they need to be placed.
Thank you.
We currently have 17 students that are placed in either private or public sectors outside the district. An example of the public sector may be a student who is in a group home in Manchester or Nashua because of a court placement, but can't access the public school in either Concord or Manchester or Nashua, wherever they're living. And that would fall under the public sector. This number is significantly lower than our neighborhood communities. Salem, Derry, Manchester have 40 to 80 students in out-of-district placements. And this is absolutely a function of Londonderry building the capacity we have in our in-district programming, that we are able to keep children here in Londonderry. And we have 2 students that were out of district in June that have come back to Londonderry High School. And so we're very excited about that as well. It is not a one-way street. This continues to be a very potentially volatile account. You can have a family move in tomorrow with a child with very significant needs that requires an out-of-district placement that we could never have forecast.
Kim?
Yes.
Of the 17 students, how many of those students are court-placed that we would not have a choice? Do you have that number?
I do. We have 5 students that are court involved. I can come back on Thursday and actually look at the exact number of students that have been placed by the court.
Okay, so what we're saying there is there's 12 students that we, as a educational team, have indicated that they should go out, and there are 5 that the courts have indicated that they have placed out for us.
The courts have had a roll in. I'd rather go back and look at the actual list of names and come back on Thursday. On Thursday, I will present the out-of-district budget, and I can answer that question then, if that's okay?
Good.
Okay. Catastrophic aid. We've talked about it tonight. Both our legislature and Nate have mentioned it. ED 1128, catastrophic aid. Catastrophic aid is revenue reimbursement spent in the previous year, as Nate alluded to. It's basically financial assistance for special education costs that are distributed by the state. The district can claim reimbursement when the cost of a student's program exceeds 3.5 times the estimated state average expenditure per pupil. For the 07-08 school year, that cap was $38,683.79. So basically, when a student's programming costs exceed that amount, you can then claim reimbursement. We have projected our CAT aid for the 07-08 school year, which is prorated at 80% because of the financial shortfalls, and our entitlement, 80% of our entitlement, which is calculated to $349,396. One thing that I'd like to highlight is that when we put in reimbursement for 22 students, we don't have 22 students that are out of district. You can claim catastrophic aid for students in district if their programming costs exceed that cap. And we have started to do that. Londonderry will continually, actively do that for in-district programming costs. And when Brian and I last spring asked several of our neighborhood communities if they were going after in-district CAT 8 costs, only Salem indicated that they were. So this is not a piece of the pie that a lot of districts are going after, but Londonderry absolutely will be going after. Evaluation statistics. Evaluations are conducted for initial eligibility determination, and then at least every 3 years thereafter. As part of our strategic plan, we have been analyzing and revamping our evaluation procedures and conducting an analysis of the process by area. For example, looking at speech and language testing across the district, what types of batteries are used, how much time does it take our speech and language pathologists to evaluate a child. The next step is to come up with a district-wide database to capture evaluation data, because the last 2 years we tried to collect that data at the end of the year, and I didn't get really what I wanted for a database. What I'd like to be able to look at is we gave this many IQ tests, it took this amount of time for this many students. And so we're still working on the best way to capture that, because every student's evaluation is obviously very individualized and unique. However, we do have a philosophical commitment to obviously meet the DOE timelines for compliance, RTI, like we've talked about, coming up with very strong referral questions, so we are not just testing to test or shooting fish in a barrel. Our evaluators will work diligently with the IEP teams so that when we are testing, we are looking for very specific answers to the questions that the IEP teams have for children's programming. And to give you a snapshot of numbers, in 07-08, 400 students went through the eligibility determination process. That doesn't mean they all got an IQ test and an academic test and speech and language testing, but 400 students went through some type of evaluation process. 333 were found eligible. That includes new referrals. 46 students were discharged. I know that's a question that has been asked before. Do children ever get discharged from special education? And 31 students were referred and evaluated but were not found eligible. Our case management handbook, we have a copy in case anyone would like to look through it. We are very excited. Last year, we conducted a paperwork audit, a self-study of our paperwork, and based on the results of that, we updated our case management handbook. The only thing that copy does not include are the procedural safeguards because they have not been updated by the Department of Ed yet. It contains all of the special education paperwork as well as user guides, templates, helpful ideas, and tools for all of our staff to use. There were two reasons behind it. One, we wanted consistency. It shouldn't matter if you are at a meeting at LEAP or you are an 11th grader, all of your paperwork should look the same. It should be filled out the same. And we also wanted to provide tools of things that worked well for special education teachers in our district to share with other special education teachers. Not only do we have hard copies and provided training to all our staff, but the entire handbook is on the info site. Jill has been working diligently with our IT staff, and we have all of the templates on the info site, and it is a living document. As people come up with things that work well, like a rubric for accommodations, they send it to Jill, we put it on the info site, and let people know that there's a new document for them to download and put into their hard copy of their case manager handbook. The next step that I'll incorporate into our strategic plan next year will be to update the local plan. That's something that was updated in 2004. Obviously, both federal and state law has changed since then, and we need to update our local plan. One piece of cost savings that I'd like to point out is with all of our paperwork on the info site and with the computers and data projectors that were bought for the special ed department 2 years ago, we really have gone to a tech-savvy IEP meeting. And conservatively, you could have 5 people, including the parent, at an IEP meeting, and a conservative IEP would be about 12 pages long. Instead of running copies of the draft for every member of, sitting at that meeting, we run a copy for the parent, and we have a hard copy for the case manager to work off of, and everyone else works off the data projector copy. And basically, using my conservative numbers, that can save about 89 reams of paper for the year if you're just talking IEP meetings, 1 per child. So SPED is trying to go green. The other thing that I'm extremely excited about is our paraprofessional support team. Last year, I went to the Council for Exceptional Children's National Conference and went to a workshop on how to really assign and utilize paraprofessionals in a one-on-one or shared, 1-on-3 capacity. And I brought back to the district what we call our paraprofessional support team. You have in your board packet some of the paperwork that we use to go through the process. But basically, when a parent or a teacher or an IEP team is concerned that a child might need a one-on-one assistant or a shared, this sort of would get kicked into action. There would be a 5 to 6 pronged observation of the child in the classroom, basically looking for What can the student do without assistance? What can they not do, but accommodations might be needed to help them do it? What can they not do and they need actual physical assistance, one-on-one support to do? What are the areas that we need to promote social acceptance? And how can natural supports like peers be utilized? And by social acceptance, I mean there's not a 14-year-old in Londonderry who wants a one-on-one assistant. They want their independence. So how can we best provide them with that? And identify areas that we will target for independence. I have mandated that any child in Londonderry that has a one-on-one or a shared assistant as part of their IEP, as we go into the IEP cycle, starting in February, have an IEP goal. If you have a one-on-one or a shared assistant need in your IEP because of a need, we should also be looking at how do we then help that student become more independent. And that's with a 3-year-old all the way up to our 19, 20-year-olds. A 3-year-old, we may not be looking to remove that one-on-one assistant, but we might be looking at, instead of hand-over-hand support that they currently need, moving them to just a verbal or visual cue from that assistant. The whole idea is to remind everyone that when they graduate or age out at age 21, that one-on-one assistant is not going with them. And we need to provide all of our students the skills to be independent. In addition to using this process for newly identified needs, I've also asked my teams in each building to start using it with children who already have one-on-one and shared assistance as part of their IEPs. We talked in November about ongoing strategic plan initiatives, and that includes our Executive Functioning Committee, our Case Manager Evaluation Rubric, our Iowa Data Project, and our Work Opportunities in our ACT program.
Finally, our professional development opportunities in 2008. We currently have monthly workshops for our special ed case managers and any other special ed staff, including speech pathologists, OTs, PTs, that directly relate their roles and responsibilities that they're asked to complete on a daily basis in the classroom. And these workshops could be anything from reviewing the New Hampshire laws, to note-taking at an IEP or a team meeting, to writing rubrics that would be incorporated into the IEP. We also have done CPI and LSCI, which are interventions to de-escalate students in crisis. And finally, we kind of have piggybacked Sue Ballard's idea of professional development on the go, which we will issue in the winter of 2009, which are current events in research that will be provided to our case managers or any other special ed staff that they can take home with them, read, reflect, and answer questions in order to obtain professional development hours. So we're very excited about those.
Again, I'd like to take this opportunity to specifically thank both the superintendent and the school board. Over the years that I've been in Londonderry, the support that the special education department has gotten has been extremely appreciated and acknowledged. It has allowed us to grow. We have a very strong special education department. We are not happy to stop there. We want to find areas that we can continue to grow and improve. And again, I couldn't do it without sorry, Jill and
tune.
Jill and my program directors in each of the building levels, and our fantastic staff, both our regular ed and our special education staff, working together on behalf of the children of Londonderry. And be happy to take your questions.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Jill. Steve?
The $18 million savings or cost avoidance, is that net or gross?
That is net.
And when did the EBD come about?
EBD is still the labeling term, if you will, for emotional and behavioral disordered.
When did the district start supporting those students in the special education population?
I really couldn't answer you that. It was certainly long before my time. I would imagine that probably starting in 1975, because it was an area of disability that you could identify early on. There are certain people that precede me with experience that might know, but for years. And the PFS program was in place at least 2 to 3 years before I got here in 2000.
Okay, thanks.
At least.
That appears to be all the questions, ladies.
Just one thing for the board, not a question, is I had asked the Special Ed Committee and Kim to put this together to give the community an update of where the State of the Union was on here and talk about this. I don't think this would have been beneficial to try to get through the budget time and get this information here. So I appreciate the effort. It was on short notice. Thank you very much for presenting this.
Okay, sorry.
It's my fault, Ben.
It was most thorough.
There's a quiz.
Thank you.
I live to please. We'll see you Thursday.
Thank you. We'll see you Thursday. Nate, the enrollment?
Yes, 5,301 students. We're down one student from last month. There you go.
Any questions regarding the enrollment? Nate? Nope.
Yep.
All right. I'll take a motion for non-public.
I don't have my sheet there, Mr. Chairman.
Right, so
Or we can sit here all night, fellas. One or the other.
I'd like to move that we go into non-public session under section mumble.
91A,
91A.
colon, A through F.
I have a motion.
And a second.
I have a motion, second. Roll call, please. I, George Herman. Thank you.
George?
Good night, all.
George, could you feel free to start?